Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something you might see on a menu, maybe called baby broccoli, broccolini.
Yeah. But that name, baby broccoli, it's really quite misleading, isn't it?
It really is. And that's what we're digging into, the real story behind this vegetable. It's got this carefully engineered identity, a pretty specific origin.
Exactly. And our notes point to this global supply chain thing, too, which really impacts whether you even see it.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, let's unpack what broccolini actually is, where it came from, how it was made.
And crucially, why isn't it everywhere? It seems to have all these advantages, milder, easier to prep. So why isn't it replacing the regular stuff?
Yeah, that's the puzzle.
Yeah.
And maybe the first piece is just that basic question. What is it, if not baby broccoli?
Okay, so straight off, it's not just a tiny version. Not at all. It's a specific hybrid.
A hybrid, okay.
Yeah, a cross between traditional broccoli, the kind we all know, Brassica oleracea italica group, and Chinese broccoli.
Chinese broccoli, Gai Lan.
That's the one, Gai Lan. So it's a mix of those two distinct plants.
Okay, Gai Lan. That makes sense visually thinking about it. Gai Lan has those longer, thinner stems, right? Much less dense than a big head of broccoli.
Exactly. And that was the point of the hybridization. The breeders were aiming for something specific.
What were they trying to achieve?
Well, they wanted to keep the sort of familiar taste, the appeal of traditional broccoli, but get rid of the downsides.
Like the big, thick stalk,
Okay.
and sometimes that bitterness.
Precisely. The thick stalk, the dense florets that can be hard to wash, the bitterness. So by crossing it with Gai Lan, they could select for plants with those longer, more tender stems, a different structure altogether.
An East meets West vegetable, then. Which brings us to how they made it. This is important, right? The sources really stress this part.
Super important, because when people hear hybrid or engineered, they often jump to, well, GMOs.
Right. Genetic modification.
But that's not what happened here. Our sources are clear. Broccolini was developed using entirely traditional methods.
Okay, explain that. What does traditional mean in this context?
It means classical hybridization. Good old-fashioned cross-pollination, taking pollen from a broccoli plant, putting it on a Gai Lan flower, or vice versa. Then you grow the seeds from that cross, and you look at the results. Most of them won't be quite right, but you find the few plants that have the traits you want, the slender stalks, the small florets, the milder taste.
Selective breeding.
Exactly. You select those best ones, and you breed them together, and you repeat that generation after generation. It takes time. Years, maybe even a decade or more, to get those traits stable and consistent.
So patience and careful selection, not gene splicing in a lab.
Correct. It's a non-GMO development, which is, a pretty big selling point for a lot of consumers today.
Definitely. And this wasn't something discovered ages ago either. The sources pinpoint the timing and location pretty clearly.
Yeah, it's quite recent, relatively speaking. It was developed in Japan.
Japan, interesting.
In the 1990s, which makes sense if you think about it. The 90s saw this huge rise in demand for convenience for premium foods, especially in places like Japan.
So it was engineered for that modern market.
Yeah.
Easy, quick, maybe a bit more elegant than regular broccoli.
That seems to be the idea. Fast to prep, looks good on a plate.
A modern vegetable, but made the old-fashioned way. Quite a story already.
And that origin, that breeding, directly leads to why it's so useful in the kitchen. Its appearance, its structure.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
If you put broccolini next to a standard head of broccoli, the difference is obvious. It's not just smaller.
Not at all. You're looking at, longer stalks, much thinner, more like asparagus in shape sometimes.
Right.
And the florets are smaller, looser, not that big, dense cluster, and fewer leaves hanging around.
And the key thing is the stalk, isn't it? The whole structure is different.
Yes. It's harvested before it develops that really thick, woody central stalk that you get with regular broccoli. The whole thing stays more tender.
Which translates into a huge practical benefit for anyone cooking it. I mean, prepping regular broccoli can be a bit of a chore.
It really can.
Yeah.
All that trimming, peeling the thick part of the stalk because it's tough and fibrous, and then trying to cook it evenly. The thick stalks take longer than the florets. It's tricky.
So what does broccolini change? How does it make it easier?
Basically, almost zero prep. The entire stalk is tender, edible. That's the Gai Lan influence coming through.
No peeling.
No peeling needed. And because the stalks are thin and pretty uniform in diameter, the whole piece cooks evenly and quickly. You don't get mushy tops and crunchy bottoms.
Okay, so consistency.
Big time saver, less food waste. You can see why chefs would love it for speed and consistency.
Makes total sense. Okay, structure and prep, check. What about the taste? Regular broccoli can be a bit strong, sometimes bitter, especially if it's, well, not cooked perfectly.
Yeah, that bitterness, it comes from compounds called glucosinolates. They're healthy, actually, but they can taste sharp, sulfurous. With broccolini, the breeders specifically selected plants low in those compounds. So the flavor profile that's reported is distinctly milder.
Milder
And sweeter. Noticeably sweeter than standard broccoli for many people.
Okay, so let's recap. We have this vegetable. It's non-GMO. It's way easier and faster to prepare, less waste, tastes milder and sweeter.
Sounds pretty good.
It sounds amazing. Like, it should be the default broccoli by now. It seems superior in almost every practical way.
You'd think so.
So why isn't it? Why, as the author of our source material notes, is it still kind of hard to find? Why isn't it just everywhere?
And here we hit the wall. The market realities, the practicalities of getting food from farm to table.
What did the source author find?
They observed it's just not widely available, not in the big mainstream supermarkets, at least not where they are. You tend to find it in smaller chains, especially grocers, maybe upscale stores.
Okay, limited distribution, and that suggests something's up with the supply, or maybe they're deliberately keeping it niche?
Could be a bit of both. But the second factor the author ran into is probably the bigger one, the price.
Ah, yes. It's expensive, isn't it?
Significantly more expensive than regular broccoli, often like several times the price per pound or kilo.
Wow, okay. That's a major barrier. Why so pricey?
Well, the sources strongly suggest a connection between the high price and the logistics, where it's coming from.
It's Julie.
Australia.
Wait, Australia. It was developed in Japan in the 90s. But the stuff we're buying is being flown, presumably, all the way from Australia.
That appears to be the situation described in the source, yeah.
Yeah.
A very long supply chain for a fresh green vegetable.
That seems incredibly inefficient and costly.
It is. Think about it. Fresh produce needs to stay fresh, shipped across oceans. That likely means air freight or very fast refrigerated sea freight. Either way, it adds a lot to the final cost.
But why Australia? Why aren't farmers closer to home, say in California or Mexico, where tons of regular broccoli is grown? Why aren't they growing broccolini to meet local demand? Undercut the import price.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The fact that the Australian supply persists, according to the source, suggests a couple of possibilities.
Like what?
Maybe specific growing conditions are needed, climate, soil, temperature control that Australia provides consistently year-round, perhaps matching Japan's initial success. Australia also offers counter-seasonal supply to the northern hemisphere.
Okay, specialized needs. What else?
Or maybe it's about positioning. Importing it keeps it feeling like a premium year-round specialty item, not just another commodity vegetable fluctuating with local seasons. It justifies the higher price point, perhaps.
So the convenience, saving maybe 5 minutes of chopping, comes with this massive price tag attached, largely because of international shipping.
That seems to be the trade-off, yeah. It turns it into a bit of a luxury green.
Right. So you've got these great qualities, easy prep, milder taste, non-GMO, totally undercut by the cost and the hassle of finding it, all driven by this complex global supply chain.
Exactly. The economics are working against the product's inherent advantages. It explains perfectly why someone, like the source author, might only be noticing it recently. It hasn't broken through to become a mainstream staple because that price friction is just too high for most people, most of the time.
A classic story.
Yeah.
Great product, difficult market logistics.
It really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Innovation on the farm, challenges in the supply chain and on the shelf. Broccolini wins on the plate, but maybe loses at the checkout.
So if we were to boil this all down for the listener, what are the, say, 3 absolute key takeaways from our sources on broccolini?
Okay, 3 things. First, know its real identity. It's a specific hybrid of traditional broccoli and Chinese broccoli, Gai Lan. That's where the unique structure comes from.
Got it. Number 2.
Second, remember how it was made? Developed in Japan, 1990s, using traditional cross-pollination and breeding. Crucially, not GMO.
Okay. Parentage, development method. And third,
the market reality. Its limited availability and especially its high price seem directly linked to the logistics of importing it, apparently from Australia, according to the source. This keeps it positioned as a premium item.
That contrast between the vegetable itself and how it gets to us is really the core of the story.
It is, which leaves us, and you the listener, with a final thought to chew on, building on these sources.
Go on.
If the main edge broccolini has is really convenience, that ease of prep, Saving time, is there a limit to what people will pay for that convenience, even with the milder, sweeter taste? Is broccolini destined to be this niche premium product because its supply chain makes it too expensive for everyday use? Or will our obsession with saving time eventually make that high price seem worth it?